We're joined now by Stan Collender. He's a former member of both the Senate and House Budget Committees, and he's now Managing Director of Qorvis Communications. And again, he joins us from D.C. Stan, thank you so much for coming on to the program. You heard what Kevin Hassett had to say earlier. He was from the American Enterprise Institute, and he was talking about how the way to balance the budget is to cut spending, and raising taxes won't do anything. What's your take?
All right, numerically, that's ridiculous. Obviously, raising taxes will have a big impact on the bottom line, a big positive impact on the bottom line, as long as you don't turn around and spend the money on other things. So just, mathematically, obviously, raising taxes, increasing revenues will have a big impact. In fact, the big change you're going to see in the deficit over the next year will be rising revenues because the economy is likely to perform better than anticipated.
Nonetheless, the U.S. government does face the need to cut down some of its spending, especially since it has such huge interest payments out there to our foreign debtors. Where will the government need to cut spending the most?
Well, I mean, the answer is everywhere. You really can't start by saying we're going to exempt certain things. That includes military as well as domestic spending, and as Kevin said, probably some entitlement changes. I'm not sure it has to be Social Security. Social Security is running a surplus and will for a number of years. So that's not really the problem. But I also don't think it's quite as easy as he suggested. He put a big smile on his face and said, oh, we can do a few things and, little tweaks here, little tweaks there. I think your question was exactly right to him. That is, the government's going to have to stop doing some things and not just cutting across the board a few percentage points here and there. That's going to please nobody. And the other big change from what he was talking about is, let's remember the Republican Party is a little bit, divided at the moment between Tea Party and non-Tea Party people. There are folks who want to cut taxes, not just not increase them, but cut taxes, and that'll increase the deficit further.
Stan, we got reports this morning that showed the U.S. economy is recovering and perhaps a little bit faster than expected. Jobless claims, pending home sales, Chicago purchasing managers. How much will the improving economy help the budget deficit?
Well, there are two things about it. Number one, three things. Number one, let's agree those are good things to have happen in general to the economy. Number two, keep in mind that those good things happening to the economy means that interest rates are likely to be higher than anticipated, and they were remarkably low. As a result, the government's borrowing, the debt on the government's borrowing, is going to go up substantially. In fact, it's likely to be the fastest growing part of the federal budget over the next year. But when you turn around and add lower unemployment, God willing, better GDP and a variety of other things like that, it means more people earn more money, more people will be paying more taxes on that, and government transfer payments, unemployment, Medicaid, those types of things will be going down. My guess is that if you don't see any legislative changes over the next year, and I don't think you will, that will actually improve the deficit. The deficit will probably fall just on baseline basis because of the economy to about 1.1 trillion, maybe even a little bit less, which would be, $200 billion less than was this past year.
So without doing anything, the deficit will fall simply because the economy is getting better. Now, Washington has made some gestures towards addressing and tackling this budget deficit. We had the Bowles-Simpson Deficit Reduction Commission that came out with its findings to great fanfare. You don't see any lasting impact from those recommendations, do you?
No, my guess is the mention that you just did of Bowles-Simpson is about one of the last times we're going to be talking about it. Let's remember they couldn't get the required 14 votes to support what the two chairs had come up with, and some of the people who voted for it knowing it was going to fail, and therefore their vote was free. The most important votes on Bowles-Simpson were by the incoming Republican chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, which deals with taxes, and the incoming chairman of the Budget Committee in the House, who deals with the budget, obviously. They both voted against it, so I don't think you're going to see very much of anything happen as a result of that commission.
So if we're not going to see very much happen and there's going to be stalemate and gridlock, you still do expect investors to be surprised by what's going to happen in Washington. Can you explain? Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm not sure that investors have factored in the kind of gridlock, stalemate, and shutdowns that I think we're about to see. It's going to be a pretty bitter year. If they're looking for any type of help with the economy or any type of legislative changes, they're very likely to be surprised. So I think that the bitterness of what you're going to see is going to be something that Wall Street's not going to like and not going to approve of very much. All right, Stan Collender of Qorvis Communications predicting a bitter fight in Congress over the budget deficit.